So I believe that 2024 will be a pivotal year for Leatherman. And one of the things that Leatherman needs to do is really wake up and realize that they are in trouble. So why do I say that? Well, last year I was convinced Leatherman could withstand anything, but we're seeing increasingly multi-tools come that are better and better. So this is a scissor-based multi-tool that I just reviewed. And to me, I think I would prefer this in a lot of instances over the Micra. And it is less than half the price of a Micra. And it's a 3-inch frame size, loads bigger than the Micra. It just offers a lot more capability and offers some really cool options as well. And then there's things like the Beta multi-tool, getting very close to the Leatherman Surge in terms of function. It's got all outside opening tools, which is really cool as well. This is from Italy, made in China still, but it's $50 cheaper than the Surge. And then, of course, you have things like the Byberry and the Day Camping DL30, which are essentially Surge multi-tool copies, and they are coming in around the $30 to $40 mark. And then now we have this Shell multi-tool, which essentially has very similar frame scales to the Leatherman Free series as well. And this is almost like a copy of the Free, a clone hybrid of a Free and a Wave, sort of. So just a lot of assaults on Leatherman, and I've come up with 6 ways that I think Leatherman desperately needs to implement or at least think about for 2024. Now, the first one may surprise you, and that is that Leatherman needs to move. So Leatherman has a lot of history in Portland, Oregon, and I think there's a lot of sentimental value there. But when I was doing a little bit of research, I began to realize that there has been a huge increase in taxes and financial burden just in the last couple years. So I went to OBI, which is Oregon Business and Industry. There's a website that you can look at, and they had an article where it says that in Portland, Oregon, business tax has increased 45% since 2019 and 32% local taxes since 2019. So there is a huge burden. And again, I'm sure that Tim Leatherman, his son, and those at the Portland, Oregon factory have no desire to move. But it is said that for businesses, the tax burden is actually higher than California, Idaho, and Washington. So just to give you some perspective, in 2019, Oregon was 38 out of 50, so it was considered a much lower tax state, perhaps than normal, and has now gone up to 21 out of 50. So it has gone up 17 spots. The taxes have increased that much. Now that's Oregon, and there are some people that say, I think they may have no sales tax and some other incentives for individuals. But when we talk about businesses, and that's what we're talking about with Leatherman, that's where it really hurts Leatherman. And in Portland, it adds even more. Portland has become the second highest when you combine state and local individual income in the country, is what I read. So recently, the people in Oregon, Portland area, they voted in a bill to help the homeless and to make preschool available to everyone. And that has been shoving businesses out of Portland because someone has to foot the bill. And what happens if Leatherman doesn't foot that bill, then we do. So that's what some people don't realize. When you have free programs, someone always pays. So someone mentioned that they would save for their business $312,000 a year if they would just move out of Portland, Oregon. So I think Leatherman is really in a tough spot. I think that's why we have seen some of the crazy price hikes, because It's just a really bad spot right now. And probably, realistically, they need to move to Texas or Florida or some of the other states that are encouraging businesses to come. And perhaps Leatherman does get some discount from Oregon. I don't know. Perhaps they get some of their taxes waived because they're a local business. Again, there's a lot of factors, but if they don't, then I think one of the first things Leatherman needs to do is leave Oregon. Now, the next thing is, it's a little iffy. So I think Leatherman needs to do a better job at communication. So when it comes to things like the Leatherman OHT, that sort of was here for a while and it just sort of sat on their website and then it just sort of left. So there was a brief email that it would be leaving and then it just sort of left. And the crunch was there for a while and then it left and it came back and it left. It came back and it left. And it seems like with Leatherman, you never know what is going on. And I think with 2024, we're going to see a lot more models dropped. And I plan to do a video just where I sort of look into the future, which obviously I can't do, but I guess into the future. And maybe we can sort of together look at some models that Leatherman will drop. But I think we'll see that again. So one of the things I think Leatherman, I wish they could do, now I know businesses, it's always a risk. The more you communicate, the more risk there is. So I understand that to some extent. But I think Leatherman needs to find a way somehow to communicate better. I feel like Tim Leatherman has done an excellent job as the spokesperson. So Tim Leatherman has been like the Dave Thomas of Wendy's or the Colonel Sanders of KFC. And as we see Tim Leatherman recede more and more into the background, take a less role, I think Leatherman will struggle a little will struggle more rather, because I think Tim Leatherman has a huge impact on the company. And there's a lot of people dedicated to the company just because of him alone. So that is definitely something every company struggles with when the inventor, the founder, leaves, or not even leaves, but takes less of a role in the company. There's always danger there. And so I think Leatherman needs to find a new spokesman when Tim Leatherman decides not to do that anymore. And I'm sure they're already preparing for that, but they need to, again, really prepare for the future. I understand they do Reddit streams and so forth, but I think there needs to be some more communication, some more advertising. So recently I was watching Zap Wizard, and he's designing some new tools for the Leatherman Arc, so make sure to go to his channel. But one of the things I appreciate with him is he said, hey, I'll probably have to make some tools made in China just because I can't afford to make tools necessarily, or the profit won't be there, the incentive won't be there, and I can make more stuff if I have some stuff made in China. Different people said, okay, we understand. We want you to create. We want you to innovate. And I feel like that's helpful when there's that back and forth, and perhaps Leatherman could do a little bit better in that department. But again, with a business, there's always a danger that in your communication, you do chase people away. And I understand that. Now, the third thing I think is we desperately need to see some more creative budget tools from Leatherman. So I know a lot of you like the Leatherman Rev, but it has been sort of one of my least favorite Leatherman tools for a long time because I just feel like it is way overpriced for what it is. So you have an outside knife on the outside, and then you've got some tools on the outside as well. You've got some screwdrivers and such. And it just seems like for what it offers, well, I guess they're on the inside rather, but for what it offers, it just seems like it's a very expensive tool. And especially when you get to the Sidekick and the Wingman, they just seem so expensive. So, and prices just keep going up and up and up. Now, how I think Leatherman could combat this is to perhaps add some more limited runs And by limited, I don't mean 1,000 units. I mean, 10,000 units, 20,000 units, where they add some special tools to like the Leatherman and the Sidekick. Perhaps with the Sidekick, they add like an extra aggressive saw, a totally redesigned saw, so they don't have to redesign the whole frame, but they can redesign one tool. And I feel like that would be a cost-cutting measure where they can add a different implement so that it becomes exciting again. So you have to buy the Sidekick because no other Leatherman option has it. For the Rev, if they would make like a special bit driver, or perhaps, a special garden implement or a pruning implement. I don't know, just throwing some ideas out there, but if they would make it unique and different, even if they would up the blade steel as well, I think there's a lot of things that Leatherman can do. And when they change colors, that doesn't really excite me. They've tried to do that with the Skeletal and the Micra and the Raptor, add all these different colors and combinations. I don't think that's that interesting. But when you add different and unique tools, I feel like that is a lot more interesting. So I would love for them to reimagine the Sidekick and the Rev and to just do more with them. Now, going right along with that, I feel like Leatherman's way forward may be to use some of these older style tools like the Surge and the Wave that people love and add more interesting implements to the outside. So sort of like I talked about with the budget tools, but even to go further. So I love to see like a wire stripper, fold out wire stripper for the Leatherman Surge. The Leatherman Surge with the longer frame size, it does lend itself to more unique tools. The Wave you could do as well. It's just you've got that smaller frame size, which constrains you. But I would love to see a lot more creativeness. So not reimagining the whole tool, that's expensive. And obviously we have to pay for that. We've seen with the Arc, that's a very expensive process. But let's go ahead and just add more tools for the T-shank adapter. If that doesn't bring Leatherman enough profit, let's reimagine some of these tools right here and change that up. So again, sort of similar to what Leatherman did with the Super Tool 300 series, where they had the EOD and they have 3 different versions of the Leatherman Super Tool. And it's just because they've added different unique tools that aren't necessarily on some other tools that Leatherman has. So for instance, like this little tool right here. So we have a pry tool right here. And that is a very unique tool to this right here. And then on some of these, I can't remember if it's this one right here, but it's on the other one actually. But there's a T-shank adapter that only fits essentially that tool. And then you can put a saw in there. And so I think things like that, where you add unique tools, and you've got this very long awl as well. So that can be helpful, not just to do it with the Super Tool, but to do that with a popular model like the Wave and the Surge to keep the interest surging. So again, Leatherman, I don't think has to bring out a new model every 2 months, but at least if they would add some new tools to some of these older generations, I think that would up the excitement as well. But anyway, let me know what you think about that. So that's number 4. We've talked about 1, 2, 3, and 4. And number 5, I think we need to transition slow sellers. So both of these, I think Leatherman considers slow sellers. And obviously this is discontinued, the OHT. But what I would like to see Leatherman do with these slow sellers is transition them, not necessarily to get rid of them, because some of these offer unique value, is to transition them to like a collectible line. So like we saw with the Heritage PST, where there's a limited run. So I would like to see a Heritage Leatherman crunch, where you realize, okay, there's a limited run. If you didn't get the crunch the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, now you have an opportunity to get it again. So I would like to see some of those limited runs where they bring back some of these tools, again, like they did with the PST, and instead of just discontinuing it altogether, make it more of a collectible limited run. And again, with the mutt, they have, to some extent, they've raised the price. And I think that's fine. If Leatherman feels like it's a slow seller and they're getting ready to get rid of it, then raise the price, see how much people are interested in it, and then they can shelve it after that. But again, I would appreciate some more communication that that's going to happen too, so people know, hey, this is the next to the last call. And then finally, I think they need to really double down on quality. So I spent a lot on the first couple points, but I feel like, again, Leatherman really needs to do that. They are known for their quality, and I feel like with the Leatherman cutters, again, I've been getting some pushback about talking about that. I understand a lot of people just love Leatherman, and anything negative they don't appreciate. But if I didn't talk about it, then I get people pushback at me from that aspect too. So you can never please everyone. But with the Leatherman arc, it's showed some of us, hey, Leatherman isn't always consistent on their quality. They make mistakes too, just like everyone else. So I think Leatherman needs to not rest on its laurels, but definitely keep active, keep busy, keep testing, keep making sure that they're making the best products out there, because if they're going to stay in Oregon, if they're going to keep doing what they're doing, if they're going to keep not communicating, yanking tools off the shelf all once it's gone, then they really need to stress on their quality so that people are willing to put up with all the rest and realize that they have the best tool out there. And that needs to be a Leatherman selling point, that they are the best in the business. And I think they have convinced a lot of people that they are, but they definitely need to keep that going. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think Leatherman needs to do in 2024?